Plant Vogtle.
Plant Vogtle, located in Waynesboro, just close to Augusta.
The fuck is Plant Vogtle?
1987 Wall Street Journal article said that Plant Vogtle went about 10 times over its anticipated cost. So instead of around $800 million, it was around $8 billion cost. And I guess this is being financed by every single Georgia taxpayer.
Is correct.
Or every single Georgia utility bill payer.
Yeah.
So that's from 1987.
Sure, 1987.
Right. So the cost overruns now.
Oh, it's
okay.
Are
I have a
significant.
little bit of a background on this because I work for State Representative Carla Dritter, who was on the Utilities Committee, and she said initially when Plant Vogtle was proposed, it sounded like such a great idea, and she was on board because that her degrees are in engineering and ecology. So, the way it was presented to her, it seemed to be sustainable and the cost was going to be beneficial. And, 10 years later, when the projected cost was so outrageously over what it was projected, state representatives such as Carl Dritter, they got upset because, they felt like they were lied to. And it was kind of like they came up with a House bill. I don't think it went anywhere, but they were supposed to reduce the cost of electrical service because of the exceedingly high cost of Plant Vogtle in order to bring that money back into the people, and that never happened. So it's still today you have the lobbyists from Georgia Power, who is probably like one of the most powerful lobby
very powerful,
in the state house under the Gold Dome.
That's right. You don't want to mess with them.
You don't want to mess with them at all. They can make or break you. I've seen it happen, and that's another element to this.
So finally, the final element to the story to me is that the Obama administration, as a part of the stimulus, launched this nuclear loan program. Mm-hmm. So Plant Vogtle, which already exists with Plant Vogtle 1 and 2, now they're looking at doing 3 and 4. And it's already been passed by the Public Service Commission of Georgia. So now they're building these. It's the first that are being built by the program. And according to Hannah Northey of E&D News, analysts say the future of the U.S. nuclear industry and of nuclear power generation in the United States will depend largely on the success of the 2 plant reactors, Vogtle 3 and Vogtle 4. So the cost overruns that I thought Brian was going to go into is initially this was supposed to cost $6.1 billion. Now, according to the AJC just this last week, it's going to cost $7.5 billion, which means that the initial rate increase that they had gotten passed by the Public Service Commission at 4.6%, it's now going to be much higher than that.
Well, I was hearing that it's going to cost even more than that. It's going to be almost 9, like 8.7. They're projected, yeah. Because
so it just keeps climbing.
Yeah.
And according to the Southern Company, because I did go and look at their website to see what they're thinking, and I heard that their stock is, or their dividends are looking pretty good.
Yeah, everyone should go out and buy Southern Company stock right now. You can get a dividend yield of 4.75%. So that's a lot better than you can get on a CD at a bank right now, right?
And besides, by 2030, electrical demand is expected to grow by 27% in the South.
Buy. That's a strong Company. Plutocracy now says Southern Company stock is a strong buy.
Southern Company Southern Company also wants you to know that this project will create 5,000 construction jobs and 800 permanent jobs, which puts it roughly in the league of the Keystone Pipeline for creating jobs. But anyway, back into reality. This is supposed to create something like 2 gigawatts of electricity, which is not going to create anywhere near the amount of new electricity that we need for the overall demand increase. Wind and solar are becoming much cheaper, and they have far fewer problems associated with them. And the problems associated with nuclear are quite diverse, and they're growing the more that scientists learn about nuclear power. And just as a couple of examples, right now we don't really have a place to store nuclear waste in the country. Yucca Mountain was supposed to be where we're going to do this. John D'Agata wrote a really great book that I've been reading this week.
Don't they turn nuclear waste into radioactive glass down in the Savannah River? They got some kind of
I mean, they've got all these different things that they do, but the problem, there's a
gonna
lot
put it
of
somewhere
problems
far
associated
away.
with storing.
Don't go back. Don't drink.
Isn't
out of
isn't that why we just went ahead and during the Gulf War just threw a bunch of depleted uranium at Iraq? Just to kind of get rid of all this nuclear waste?
But that sounds pretty messed up. But there's a lot of problems that come with this, including transporting. That was something I didn't realize until reading this book, is that you've actually have to transport it across
Iraq
lots of
the
states.
Fallujah too.
Yeah, and you're just putting it in 18-wheelers, and they're carrying across states. So like you're driving next to an 18-wheeler, and it's got nuclear waste in it. So there's a lot of problems associated with this. Meanwhile, the future of the electricity
Okay, now I'm gonna
seems
tell
to
you,
be
there are
dominated by
protocols.
solar.
There are protocols, but they transport this stuff. There's like a caravan of cars. It's not like you can just drive
according
by.
to scientists and interviews that I've read, protocols are looking pretty weak.
They're supposed to be a.
They're not supposed to be.
They're supposed to be like a caravan of cars in between the container carrying nuclear waste, and it's like nobody's supposed to be able to be next to it.
The protocol for the plant itself, in terms of preventing a plant from having a meltdown, are really strong from what I've seen. But in terms of getting rid of nuclear waste, there's a lot of nuclear waste, like thousands of tons of nuclear waste that we haven't figured out where to put it.
Why are we still building this? So what are the dynamics going on here?
That's what I'm wondering about. Well, like why?
Well, we've put in a lot of money
this?
so far.
Well,
right?
yeah, but
I mean, this is
but this
decades.
decision was only this decision was only made just recently. We still haven't really figured out how to do nuclear power in a way that I think people would be happy with.
We're doing this because...
And by the time that we figure it out, solar and wind are going to be so much cheaper at that point.
We're doing this because in the 80s, a bunch of hippie liberals got together and started making a bunch of noise about coal. So, this is an alternative.
Those hippie liberals.
The alternative to using fossil fuels.
Shutting down radioactive shit, that sounds like us.
There's been solar power for like 100 years.
And solar power is getting
viable,
so much cheaper so fast, I can't even quantify it right now.
It's almost
really
it is an unlimited source of energy.
Yeah. Like if I could show you a graph, it looks like it's just a line falling down, and it's just getting now to the point where it's competing with coal and natural gas.
But it doesn't have all those subsidies. It's got like nothing in subsidies in comparison.
No, I'm saying with actually even without subsidies.
Factored in?
It's already cheaper in Hawaii. It's about to become cheaper in the Southwest, and it'll rapidly become cheaper across the country. And I mean it's pretty dramatic, including
once it happens, they'll start taxing the shit out of it. Places like Georgia.
So does
like
anybody
they're taxing electric vehicles extra now and took away the tax incentive?
Yeah. Does anybody in Plutocracy now think Georgia's public has gotten a good value for this plant Vogtle?
I think most of the public probably doesn't even know.
I think that I think Georgia Power, Southern Company has pretty much they failed us. They had a coal power plant blow up 2 years ago. How expensive was that? What was the ecological impact of that area? Was that Cartersville? That happened to y'all? You guys remember?
I didn't hear about that.
No,
it was a coal-fired power plant just exploded. It was like, it was like they did a measurement and the shockwave of the explosion was almost comparable to a small nuclear bomb. It was a gigantic.
And dude, here's what I don't get: we built all these nuclear plants everywhere. We got all these safety, procedures in place supposedly. But what happens if, like, just a freak, totally possible, more possible the more plants you build, but totally freak giant tornado comes through and just hits
or
right
like
in the center of the fucking
earthquake
facility,
or something like that.
Yeah,
a tornado.
A
hurricane for that matter.
I mean,
and then what? Like, are your security protocols? Are they gonna handle that?
I think nuclear plants are designed to take on hurricanes, but a tornado or earthquake, and
you said Fukushima.
I don't think Fukushima did a great job.
We have higher standards than they do, but still.
You sure?
No, we
Are
don't.
you sure?
No,
In the Japanese?
Yes, according to scientists that I was listening to,
on the Southern Company website.
No, not those ones.
Well, these scientists happen to be American.
But I think it's a good argument. I mean, something freaky could happen, and yeah, I mean, it's if it happened with solar power, it wouldn't be a problem.
If that was the only source of power, then it'd be a different debate. But we have renewable. You have solar power in your house. There's no risk of it having a nuclear meltdown.
Right, and the point when you build a nuclear plant is it's supposed to last for at least 50 years, and I'm just looking out 50 years. I just don't think that's necessary at all.
Yeah, 50 years.
Because I mean, solar and wind will be so much cheaper.
But that's the thing. 50 years from now, the plant will be going out of use, and there will be.
Yeah, but 25 years from now, I just
Society
don't
will start
think it's going to be
collapsing, and then-
useful. Oh, right.
I mean, it's
right.
still going to be useful. We just said that the power grid is going to need to be increased within. Would you say 2030? It was.
Yeah, 27% just by 2030 alone. And and then there's going to be a lot of infrastructure that has to be built from Augusta to Atlanta because a lot of that 27% is talking about Georgia, and by Georgia I mean Metro Atlanta.
Yeah, of course. Metro Atlanta is going to become like once like 20 years from now, Edenton and Millersville is going to be considered Metro Atlanta because it's going to be, if you go out past Social Circle, you see all these properties being built out on Lake Oconee.
I saw a lot of big houses, not just on the lake. I saw those pretty nice houses.
Like in the 500,000s, nice, like mansions,
Oh yeah.
I have a general question, and this is slightly off topic. I know we're supposed to talk about nuclear energy in Georgia, but solar panels. Do solar panels contribute to global warming simply because they're black? Because I know, for example, ice, snow, painting rocks white.
So bad,
like black things absorb energy
because they absorb that energy.
Right, but when you absorb energy, it's kind of like creating a heat island, right? Kind of like how asphalt is so dark, it absorbs so much energy.
Which is why we could put solar panels on our roofs and it wouldn't change anything as far as the color goes. Roof's already black. So are all the roads.
All right.
We got plenty of black surfaces already.
If we took our roads and built solar panel roads, which is actually a very serious thing. I'm not even making this up. It's a very serious thing, and if we just did that, we could power all of our stuff, and then we could also power other countries if we wanted to.
Because as I understand, the roads they don't just work off of solar power. They actually the energy that's displaced by the tires. They somehow use that energy.
Possibly, but just based on the solar power alone. Also, when you consider where do most people, like the big population centers, are typically around.
And we're talking about solar. They're two different types of solar. They're like the traditional black solar powers, and then there's like the mirrors that they conduct the heat in a certain location, and it causes.
I'm talking about
and then the birds fly in and become incinerated.
No, you know what? That's some bullshit. Hold on, let me kill that right now before I hit cut, dude.
Yes.
All right, so there was where was it? Was it California where that just happened or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that happened, and they for like 30 days or something, they'd killed a couple hundred birds. But then they adjusted their shit. They started again for a month, 30 days, only had one bird fly into that shit. Dude, that's way less than, and think about if people don't want to think about all the environmental impacts and all the birds who die from like coal plants and everything.
Yeah, not only that, but people who are complaining about wind power killing birds because the windmills hit some of the birds, they need to keep in mind that cats in America are responsible for 1 billion bird deaths a year, as are windows. So if you want to start talking about getting rid of solar power, wind
and I'm
power,
sure there's ways
because
to
you're
deal
concerned
with
about
that.
birds, you need to start talking about your cats and your windows.
So does Plutocracy now support an open season that anyone can kill any cat outside?
No. Spay and neuter, just like humans.
I'm gonna make a stand for kitten rights.
That's crazy.
I'm gonna stand
Spaying
up
and neutering is that's
genocide.
Anesthetize them, dude. No, that's all right. Cut.
All right.